This is my dog Bernie, and he thanks you very much for watching this video. Now let's get to coding. Alright, so in this video we're going to be looking at useReducer. And in a previous video for context I said use context is like use state, but you could use it anywhere. And so when we're talking about hooks, it's really just about state and data management and efficient ways to make sure your app runs as smoothly as possible, as decoupled as possible, so you're not almost hot gluing Lego pieces together, right? And for useReducer, it's a lot like useState, but useState is good. I like using it for integer values, booleans, maybe even some really tiny objects. But for useReducer, I really recommend to use it for much more complex stuff, because this reducer I'm going to show you is going to be like a very, very tiny like switchboard, or I think other people have said it's like a state machine. Really, it's just going to be a function with a switch statement in it, and it can handle a plethora of cases. So let's get to writing it. I'm using Code Sandbox.io up here. Don't forget to import React, and let's get going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to talk about what this line is going to do before I start fleshing out the rest of the application. All right, so this isn't going to run because we don't have a reducer or an actual initial state. And there's actually a third argument you could place in here, but I'm just going to show you a very low level, simple example in this video to get you up and going. But as you can see, we're going to provide a reducer, which this is just going to be that switch statement that's going to let you choose between different cases. And this initial value is exactly what it sounds like. And so from there, we're going to get two things. State, which is the way things are currently, and this thing called dispatch. And a dispatch is a function that says, hey, when you give me this kind of value thing or item, I want you to take a particular action. Now, this all sounds entirely vague, but put this in the back of your mind, and I'm going to go fill out the rest of this application. And so right here, what we could see is we're accessing this state. And so this is going to be obviously an object right here. So this is going to be state.value. Where are we getting this value from? Right up here. And so we could have just hard coded whatever we wanted to directly into initial state. Typically, you don't want, I think they're pretty much called magic numbers or magic whatever you're going to put in here if you just hard code it in. But we want to split this out because that's a bit better programming. So we have this value that's equal to 0 right here. And so what we're doing is accessing state.value, so this, and we can see that it's 0. So this part of it is covered. But what about this reducer stuff right here? It looks like it's getting some stuff. This state is going to be passed in, and there's some kind of action. I only see action here. Where's the action in the rest of the page? And it works like this. So we're going to use this dispatch function right here. And when we call it, we're going to give it type add. So this type right here is going to come on in, and this is actually going to be the action. So you can see add right here, subtract, matches that, and then we want to have a default in case someone screws up somewhere, right? We want to throw an error. So when we click dispatch, it's going to go in to the switch statement. It's going to look for the action, and it's going to look for its type, which is this value right here. And it's going to say, which of these is being put in here. Otherwise, just throw an error. So when we click add, we should see the value, which initially was 0, go to 1. So let's do that. We can see that it goes up. And as we click subtract, it's going to this case right here. And it's going down. Easy as could be. And so that's the initial way to use useReducer. And in the next segment of this video, I'm going to show you how to introduce a payload into the dispatch so you can have a bit more control of what data is coming into your reducer. So in this section of the video, we're going to be looking at how to use a payload in useReducer. Now, there's a million things I could show you about useReducer. And like I said, I want to keep this as simple and as user-friendly as possible. So if you have any comments, need clarification, whatever, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. I have a full-time job. I'm trying to do the best I can with this material. But just let me know what you think and any requests in the future if I'm able to get to them. But back to the topic here. We are adding, we're subtracting. And that's fine. You could do way more complex things in here. And hopefully you're starting to see kind of the power of this hook. But there's kind of some extra, I don't want to say magic, but something that gives it a definite edge, I think, over use state. And that's something called a payload. So not only are we able to handle more complex types of scenarios using this switch statement here, not only can we give it the kinds of cases we want it to assess when we use dispatch, but we could also provide an extra argument inside of the dispatch to give it an explicit value. So not only is it going to take a specific action, but we could send up with it some additional information, which is really freaking cool. And we could do that very, very, very easily. And so what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to create a multiplier payload. And hopefully this starts sparking some ideas of what you could do. Because I'm just doing simple math right now. But say you're capturing some kind of information from an API elsewhere, some kind of user input, something along those lines. You could then put this information where I'm simply putting 10 to multiply something by 10. But you could put it into this payload and update your master state, which you may send to your own database or whatever it may be. And it just makes doing that so much easier. So we're going to come in here. I don't know why it indents all awkwardly like that. So now we have a dispatch. We know it's going to work because there's a case for multiply right here as there is for add and subtract. But what this has that the others don't, and it's fine, is this extra information called payload. And because there's an action type, there's also this attribute, which is the payload, which you guessed it, is this value of 10 right here. So 0 times anything is going to be 0. But let's go ahead and make this 2, and let's hit multiply. And we now see that it's 20. So now we're able to hit that again, and again until our heart's desires. And we're just sending up every single time this value 10 with it, which is really cool. Like I said, this is a very small, mathy, low-level example here. But I think this, just even though it takes a little bit more to scaffold out, is definitely more impressive than use state. Although it's not a complete replacement for use state, especially if you're just caring about one particular value, like I said, a Boolean or an integer string, whatever it may be. But if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, comment below, keep returning, suggest to your friends or whatever. I love really sincerely doing this stuff for y'all, even if like only 10 people watch it. And see y'all in the future and have a good one, all right?